Chris, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi, John.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Everybody went to lunch today, but me. So
Yeah. Well, sorry, I was just over here manipulating the YouTube video. We are live on YouTube, by the way.
I need to watch what I say.
Up to you.
It is either incredibly clear out or my cataract surgery went incredibly well on Tuesday. It's amazing. Really amazingly nice out today.
It was the latter.
You think so?
No, I'm kidding. It is actually, yes, a perfect day out there, I think.
Yeah, I had a rough year in flat light skiing, and I didn't really realize how bad my one eye is.
Well, I hope you see some improvement with that.
Yep. Hard to believe it happened to a 40-year-old guy like myself, but it does.
Right. Yes, I know. Entropy comes to us all, it seems like. So certainly it is coming to me. But
Mike, are you on? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yes, can you hear me?
You bet.
I'm in an Uber returning from the airport, so I'll probably just listen in, and
Oh, of course.
I'll turn my mic on if I need to talk, and you need to talk to me or something.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. Bye.
we do have Dave Richards
Dave.
on the call already as well. He runs the Avalanche program, so he's a great witness.
Hey, Dave. Oh, you're muted.
I said, I'm not sure I want to be a witness, Chris, but
Wrong word.
forced into certain things, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, John. There's Dave.
Hello, Dave, Elise, Mike, Chris. Uh-oh. Jeff Niemeyer. Hello, Jeff. So apparently there is an email. Hang on.
Hi, Marin.
Hey, John, just ask Jeff which email it ought to go to.
The JEFFNIER at Hotmail. He's looking concerned.
Hello, Mayor.
Looks like he's forwarding you another one.
Okay, Jeff should get that.
Okay, you should be getting it.
How about Rob? Is he out of town?
Rob is on his way to Hawaii, sadly for him.
Or is the commitment?
Far out. Okay, I'm hanging up and joining everybody and you. Thanks,
Okay.
bye.
Jeff's here. Jeff's on.
Okay, Jeff's on. Polly is having some a hard time. Well, she might be using the wrong login or something like that, but I'm communicating with Polly about joining.
We'll give her a couple of minutes, Chris.
Okay.
How's everybody doing today?
Beautiful day, beautiful day.
It really is.
There's so many tracks on the mountain. It looks like the lists are still open.
Yeah, I've seen some Twitter posts of people posting it saying it's wall-to-wall tracks and
Yeah.
Dave, are we past the wet slide risk area, risk time period?
I wouldn't say that. There were two nice little avalanches on Superior yesterday, actually.
oh,
Neither of which would have buried you, but it would have been a real rough ride through the rocks, let's say that. As it heats up over the next couple of days, I think we'll see some more snow come unglued, but I think we're over the really big and scary stuff. Let's put it that way. I think we're just into the surface snow, and like the mayor said, there's plenty of people out there skiing, so they'll chop it up and they'll find it for us.
And there are lots of, there are several slides on the backside that I can spot, maybe 4 or 5, all dark.
Yeah, the solar aspects will be pretty active for the next few days, and then it'll just turn.
Dave froze up.
Active for days.
Chris, how's our bandwidth typically? Do we need to, some people need to go to video or shut down the video, or are things usually okay?
It's usually fine. And I guess I don't quite understand, whether that's a matter of like my internet connection as the meeting host or, whose bandwidth matters in this case. But I'm like 6 inches from a Google Fiber hotspot. So,
Okay.
maybe you need to be 3.
right.
Move over double bandwidth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We always need more. The apps get more complex and computers get more complex as well. So,
Well, they ran Google Fiber in front of my house, and I get a letter from them every other day now telling me I should hook to Google Fiber.
What do they want to charge you?
Well, $70 a month for their gig speed. Plus, taxes would probably comes close to what I'm paying through Xfinity.
Yeah.
But I don't need gig speed, so.
if you want Google Fiber, they may have to like come to your house and run another line from the telephone pole and drill another hole in it. So that's buyer.
Yeah, no, they have to dig across my front yard. The box is out in the street, and so it's through a bunch of trees and a little bit of landscaping, and then drill another hole through my wall.
Not ideal.
Okay, we've got Polly now. Hi, Polly.
Or not?
Well, we had her for a second while she's there. Polly, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm having a bad connection. I'm going to move. I'm at a conference, so I'm just sitting outside, but I'll find a better place.
Okay, if you want to mute or something, that's fine too. I think we should get started. It's 1:05. Yep. We're good, Chris? Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to read part of the letter, the determination letter. I won't read the whole thing because it gets a little bit wonky. You've heard me say it before, but I've also been told it's nice and calming and relaxing that I do read this. So I was a little surprised to hear that, but that's okay. So this
You don't
is,
have to read the whole thing, though.
I'm not
You
going
can
to read
just, okay.
them. So on June 2nd, 2022, we're going to hold Town of Alta Planning Commission. And as the chair of the Town of Alta Planning Commission, I hereby determine that conducting a meeting with an anchor location continues to present a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. In other words, where we meet at the town. So therefore, this planning commission meeting will not have a physical anchor location. All attendees will connect remotely. Attendees may join the webinar, the meeting by registering for the meeting through the town website, or the meeting can be watched via YouTube. Yours truly. So with that, I think that's sufficient. Welcome everybody, and thanks for the off schedule meeting. It's an important meeting, and hopefully we won't need the full 2 hours. I'd be quite surprised if we do. But I hope everybody's having a good start to the summer, and that the forecast of a hot, dry summer are incorrect, but we'll see how that pans out. Any other things from staff, John or Chris? Anything before we get rolling into the details here, as far as our agenda item number 2?
No, nothing. This is, like you say, a special meeting just for these Wiesen towers up on Baldy. So it's a single purpose meeting, so that we can address these special issues.
With action associated, which is always nice.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. So we don't get those too often, so it's nice to have that. What I'm going to do is turn the time over to Dave. And Dave, I assume you're ready to talk about maybe some of the planning background, the current conditions, the risk associated with the current artillery program, the outlook for that, when that may end, and some other background issues, and if you want to talk about the actual proposal as well. So if you're okay that we turn it over to you.
And before Dave starts,
Yes.
I can be rude and interrupt. Just so you know, Dave, the Planning Commission has your letter of application,
Yes.
the letter from the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the approval from the Forest Service, and the specs on the Wiesen towers from Wiesen, as well as your letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got it all.
And the visual, also the rendering such as they are, as far as location placements and what footings would look like, where they would be in terms of the placement in the starting zones.
Excellent. Well, with that in mind, since you guys have that letter in front of you, I'll probably skip the fancy glossy PowerPoint for the moment. We can give it after this brief statement if you'd like. But first of all, before anything, I understand this is a special meeting, and I want to thank all of you for gathering to kind of help us knock this out so that we can move forward with this pretty important project that needs to begin here in the next couple of months with luck. So thanks for the opportunity to speak with you on your special day. And for those of you who don't know me, which I think everyone does, my name is Dave Richards. I'm the director of the Avalanche program for Alta Ski Area, and I'll be representing Alta Ski Resort here today. Alta Ski Area is requesting the issuance of a conditional use permit from the Alta Planning Commission, followed by a request which will go before the Alta Town Council for variance on construction of slopes steeper than 30 degrees later in the month. The request, as you said, is for the installation of a remote avalanche control system, which I'll hereafter refer to as RACs, to be installed on private land on the Mount Baldy area of Alta Ski Resort. This installation is intended to replace the existing military artillery program and to provide for improved safety of the employees and the guests of Alta Ski Area. For background, Alta has used military artillery for avalanche mitigation since the 1950s. since basically Monty Atwater stole a howitzer from the Utah National Guard and decided this would be the right way to go about doing avalanche work. And it's worked very, very, very well for us since that time. However, in 2018, the Secretary of the Army issued notice that artillery use by civilian entities should be ended. And in 2019, the Army set a deadline of 2025 for the end of artillery use from the Pea Ridge Howitzer Mount, which is the mount which we currently shoot Mount Baldy from. It is for this reason that we're actively installing racks throughout the ski resort. And it should be noted that similar project is underway by the UDOT, the Department of Transportation, above the town and above Highway 210, which you guys are all aware of. We've known for many years that this is likely to occur and thus have planned for it. In 2006, we commissioned our first study of Mount Baldy, and that completed study suggested the installation of a small tram as well as a racks installation to move skiers to the top of the mountain and do avalanche mitigation. In 2016, a second study was done, which eliminated the tram concept and suggested a 21 unit racks installation. What we've done here is we've built off this second study without using the tram and brought the number of possible installations down to a total of 11. This is because of some of the new tools that have become available to us that we previously were unaware of and unable to use because of ATF restrictions. At this point, we're actively seeking to install 9 of these devices, and this plan does not include the use or installation of the tram. Of the possible 11, 2 lie on federal land and are already approved by the U.S. Forest Service, and you guys have the documentation for those approvals in front of you already. The installation will provide an increased level of safety to the employees of Alta ski area and allow for Alta to maintain the status quo level of effective avalanche mitigation that we do currently. We'll be able to keep the terrain high on Baldy, as well as in the terrain below the ballroom and Main Street area, managed well and open for skiing as often as possible through this new installation. Regarding the conditional use permit, I'll just go through it really quickly. Alta ski area submitted to you all required documents and supporting materials in a letter to this body on May 23rd of 2022. As you mentioned, this included site plans, view shed, and footing and tower plans, as well as permitting from the USFS and Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, they like to call themselves nowadays. Photos were attached to depict sight lines and completed structure. We believe that there will be no impact to neighboring structures or communities outside of the regular avalanche mitigation efforts. I recognize these things are loud, as Roger can attest and Maren can attest, but that's the only real impact that we see to neighboring communities, and it will be actually quieter than the gun going off right above the heads of people that live in my neighborhood here in Sugar Plum. To cover a couple of quick things, Section B1 of your code requests site plans to show new structures which have been provided to you. This section also requests site plans for roads, parking, grading, drainage, utilities, and others. And we believe this does not apply to the terrain in which the installation is taking place. The mountain consists of high elevation rock and rocky soils on steep terrain. No roads or other infrastructure exist. Section B2 requests site sections showing sight lines from adjacent properties. These have been submitted to you with the application letter. Section B3 requests building floor plans, et cetera, for the proposed building. And I note this because we believe that this tower design does not actually constitute a building as such. Therefore, we believe the item does not apply. However, footing plans and tower depictions were submitted with the application letter for your approval and review. Section B4, other documents in support of this installation were submitted with the May 23rd application letter. including those from the USFS for installation on federal lands and from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives for the use of the explosive delivery device. Of note, you will see that only the first 9 devices have approval from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. This is based on the final 2 installations being speculative at this point, and at this point not ground proofed. If the time comes that the final 2 devices are needed, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms approval will be pursued at that time. And when I say ground proof, that simply means I want to see what the exploders above the dogleg chute, if you're familiar with the dogleg, which is basically mid-slope. I want to see what the exploders up high do as far as covering the stuff down low before I go wild and start putting in more exploders. That's really all I'll say, unless you guys want the fancy PowerPoint, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you, Dave. I've got a couple, and we may need some visuals later, Dave. So we'll put that on in the parking lot for now. And maybe this is in the PowerPoint. What's the total number of targets going to be reduced? Current artillery targets, little X's on the map that are going to be gone now.
Well, we have 20 targets on Baldy, the little X's on the map that you described. And with the 11 exploders, I can cover all of them.
Okay.
With the 9 exploders, I can cover all but 4 of them. And if you want the visuals, you know, we have done a lot of studies showing the explosive effect and the way it spreads out over Mount Baldy. And we're using a really big bomb here. I'll be honest with you. The average explosive used by the Alta Ski Patrol is 2 pounds. The 2-pound hand charge, which you see thrown in the snow all over the place. The bomb used out of this exploder is an 11-pound bomb and covers a vast area of terrain. And therefore, we were able to reduce the number of exploders and still cover the same number of targets.
Right, right. Speaking of the charges, remind us, mid-season recharge, getting more bombs in there mid-season, is that or do you remind me? I know how the GazX works. I can't remember how you recharge the Wiesen towers.
So the Wiesen towers have a remote hook system on the top of them. And we're able to fly up there with a helicopter and hook them and bring them down and reload them. It takes about an hour to do the entire reloading process for East Castle. So it'd be about a 2-hour project to reload Mount Baldy. And we would just spread this out over a few days. You know, we're not going to fly helicopters around Alta Ski Area all day long while we have public on the hill.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, it's a helicopter based.
That's what I remember. Yeah. Okay. I've seen him in the parking lot on the ground. Last question. I'm going to turn over to my colleagues. Ridgeline protrusion, anything as for, let's say you're at the bottom. I'm sure there may be some areas. Does the devices, the towers break the ridgeline from any perspectives? Let's say at the bottom of ballroom, for example. Do they?
As viewed from the parking lot or on the road, no.
Okay.
If you were to stand underneath it, under ballroom, and look up, yes, they will break the ridge line in the Perlas area. 3 of them will visibly break the ridge line in the Perlas area.
Okay, but not from the town nor the road.
No, from the town nor the road, I've done my very best to put them down on slope. The one nearest the summit will probably catch a little glint in the sun for the first couple of years while the tower dulls, but then I think will mostly vanish. So.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yep.
That's what I have for now. Other folks. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I have 4 questions, Dave, and I appreciate you being here to answer some questions. So the first one is the Forest Service approval memo indicated that it was on their first line to determine if the rack towers were a viable alternative to the aerial tram. does this mean that the aerial tram is off the table, or what's the future of that aerial tram?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, Jeff, I will give you, first of all, my professional line, which is I do not speak for the board of directors of Alta Ski Area.
Okay,
So that may be a question you want to ask of Mike once I give you my professional answer. My professional answer from the point of view of the director of the avalanche department at Alta Ski Area is this installation renders the tram unnecessary.
okay, thank
That
you.
is my professional opinion.
Great.
Mike might want to comment on the rest of it.
Yeah, I
Right,
can
well-
comment. I can comment on that. So our intent is, we believe this can take the tram out of the picture, and that was one of the discussions we had with the Forest Service, is why we would take this approach. And we'll learn from this and see, but it would eliminate the need for a tram to go to the top of Baldy for avalanche control work if they function as we anticipate they will.
Great, thank you. My next question is the Forest Service memo indicates there's 2 phases of construction. What are those phases, and how, there was the 9 versus the 11, you said 2 are going to be in the future. Of those 9, are they all going to try and get them all in this year?
No, phase 1, and again, we could go to visuals if you'd like, but
Now you
phase
just
one
describe it.
phase one is basically everything to the east of the summit. So you're familiar with looking at Mount Baldy, there's the highest point. We'll put in 5 towers to the east of the summit this year. And then next year, we'll put in 4 towers to the west of the summit, which will encompass the Little Chute, Main Chute, and Baldy Shoulder. And at that point, we may consider going back to the remaining 2 as part of phase 2, which are kind of scattered shot about the mountain.
Okay,
But this
Great.
year, the focus is everything to the east of the summit.
okay, great. And then this is question is kind of based on my experience when I was working in Salt Lake City with Rocky Mountain Power. They were changing out some of their large power poles going up 6th and 8th South. And there was a big dialogue in the community of the galvanized versus some other treatment. And they ultimately came up with a treatment of allowing the poles to be a natural rust color. Is that an option that you guys looked at all, or do these just come standard in the galvanized? And
They come standard as galvanized, but I actually had a conversation with the installer today and asked him to spray them, which will not turn them a rust color, but it will dull the reflective nature of them. The other thing that you've seen, and realistically, there's 2 types of spray that you can use. One is incredibly toxic, and we don't want to use it up here in the watershed.
right.
The second is basically apple juice and vinegar. And we'll probably spray them with that, which will dull the galvi a little bit faster. What we've seen with the installation that you see on East Castle and also above the town, and I talked to the mayor about this just the other day, they fade very, very quickly. And within a couple of years, they basically don't shine anymore. But I do understand your concerns, and I did talk to Alpine Mountain Construction this morning about buying themselves some apple juice. So,
Okay, keep the critters off the poles. So, and the last one I think you've kind of answered is the 9 versus the 11 on the ATF approval. But of the 9 that are approved, of the 8 towers that are going to be on the private property subject to this conditional use permit, are they all covered with that ATF letter? Or?
yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
So, okay. So those are my questions. Thank you.
Hey, Dave, can you maybe explain why we're phasing it in and how this all ties in with UDOT and Snowbird?
Sure. I think I catch the gist of your question there. So one of the reasons that we're moving forward right now, as I mentioned, the Army has set a deadline of 2025. But that includes Alta, Snowbird, and the UDOT guns in this canyon, excluding the Valley gun at Snowbird, which shoots the mid canyon, which is a wilderness area, and we can't put racks into the wilderness area at this time. We are trying to do these phases in a way that allows Alta and Snowbird to work side by side for the next last summer and the 2 upcoming summers, this year and next year, through 2023. At that point, we want to turn all efforts from both the VEASAN manufacturers and the installers over to the UDOT so that they can work on Mount Superior for the summer of 2024. And that gives us all 1 year of 2025 to still have a gun and make sure that we don't have any sort of major malfunctions that all of us young knuckleheads looking at this from an avalanche point of view haven't missed something glaring. And we would still have a gun and we could pick those up through construction in 2025. So we're doing it in phases, working Alta and Snowbird together, and then hand it all over to the UDOT so they can get Superior done and we can retire the entire mount at once. Does that answer your question, Mike?
Yes.
Informative, so thank you.
And along those lines then, Dave, and maybe for Mike, moving forward beyond that, when the guns are gone, is there some sort of interagency agreement with UDOT to get economies of scale in terms of reloads and things like that, and just to be more efficient with your helicopter flights and all that stuff? Is there?
Yes, so we already have an interagency agreement with UDOT. So when we fly, they fly, basically, is the way that we've all worked it out. And that way we all get it done at once. We eliminate helicopter time on different days that, and we all, to be perfectly honest with you, we all save money if we work together.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
So yeah, we have an interagency agreement with the UDOT and Snowbird actually, to allow all of us to work together and kind of bill each other and make it all come out in the wash so that we can do things effectively.
So when people say we don't have a public-private partnership here, we actually do.
Oh, it's in writing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Very good. I don't want to, Dave or Maren,
Yeah, I got a question, John.
Great.
2 questions, actually. I was looking at the package and Dave, thanks for fielding all these questions. I was trying to understand the map. There's an Alta ski area red property line on this map, and I don't see. I'm trying to figure out the correspondence on that. It looks like the towers, or we'll call them these red and yellow sort of flash or explosion kind of icons or whatever, and there's only 2 outside of the boundary, and I'm trying to align it with the narrative and what we've been talking about.
Yeah, that's correct, Dave. Those 2 outside the boundary are the 2 that are approved by the U.S. Forest Service. The one, if you're looking at the map closely, the one in shot 3, which is right on the border there of the boundary line, that has kind of been advertised as within the property, and we've decided to move it out. So it's on Forest Service land there. So and then the other, the one in the dog leg, which you can see. Do you see the dot in the dog leg? That's a speculative. Yep. That is a speculative tower. So that may or may not ever exist. So the ones that you see going up the shoulder, the little chute, across the top of Perlas, dropping down into low perlas, and then what we'll call the right hand of the two outside the boundary are the ones that we are actively going after. So.
Okay, thanks. The other question was, I think I was reading between the lines, or are they all the 12-meter variety? They're all the same?
Yes, they are. They're all the 12-meter tower. The only tower in Little Cottonwood Canyon that has an extension on it is the Flagstaff shoulder, because it builds such an enormous wind drift on it. And we've seen even there that that's completely unnecessary. There's no reason to go with anything taller than that. 12 meters, sticking with that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Maren, anything from you? Any questions?
Yeah, you've answered a lot of them and we talked yesterday. Is the other speculative one the one lower down on Perlas?
No, that one is going in this summer.
Okay.
The furthest one to the left is speculative.
Okay.
And the dog leg is speculative.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then my only other question, with the fewer shots that you're using to cover what we shot before, along with the construction and everything, do you think this would still be less impactful than what we're doing currently with the howitzer and then potentially the tram, as far as on the terrain, the environment, and maybe even the watershed? Do you think this is sort of the best option?
I think it's by far the best option. I know it's less impactful than a tram. Putting in base and top terminals on that tram would be major excavations. As for the watershed, I would tell you that these will have, now Jeff Niermeyer may have comments on this because this was his profession for a long time. I would tell you that these will have little to no effect on the watershed. That said, this explosive going off above the snow will put some dust on the snow, the black stain. It will be very, very similar to the black stain that you saw from the howitzer for years. So there will be some charcoal and burn in the snowpack, in the snow melt. I can't deny that. Will it be less of an impact on the mountain than the howitzer? I have a hard time believing that howitzer was making too much of an impact on the mountain. The concerns with the howitzer were not the impact on the mountain. The concerns with the howitzer are strictly the safety of the gun crew and the people downrange, so to speak.
But there'll be probably less unexploded ordnances that are residual with this setup as opposed to the howitzer, where you occasionally had unexploded rounds that were left on the mountain.
Plus, you do have metal fragments up there too, don't you? From the shells.
Yes, there's a lot of metal fragmentation across all of the mountains of the Wasatch at this point. I mean, I wouldn't walk up there with my flip-flops on, let's put it that way. You will have, I'm not going to say no unexploded ordnance, but you'll have substantially less. And the beauty with this ordnance that we're using for these towers is it has a Reco chip poured into it. So we can locate it immediately. If it does dud, which happens very, very, very rarely in our experience with these things. I think we've had one dud in all of Little Cottonwood Canyon with a Wiesen tower. You're able to go up there and find it with the Reco immediately. So there's nothing laying around up there in the summer, which, to be honest, kind of breaks my heart because I always enjoyed my Thursday afternoon dud hunt in the wildflowers. But
Right.
You and Liam.
But it is safer. We'll put it that way. Yeah, me and Liam, we still like our walks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
I have just one more question, and don't feel obligated to answer it if there's trade secrets or something, but I'm just curious, what is the typical average cost of a tower installation?
$220,000 installed.
Okay,
It's not a trade secret. I mean, if you wanted to go buy one, you would find out exactly what it costs. So
right.
there you
So,
go.
Anyhow, a substantial investment on a part of the ski company.
It's an extremely substantial investment to do this move into the racks world. But I can't tell you how worth it is compared to the safety of my crew and my skiers. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket compared to somebody getting hurt. So.
Great. Thanks.
All right, good. Well, I think the planning commissioners have asked their questions, and Mayor, if you want to weigh in, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm curious as to why you're splitting this over 2 years. I mean, there are, I think, 4 more that's going to put in in conjunction with Snowbird. Why don't you do them all at once? And the second question is, how did you select these particular sites?
So the reason I'll answer that in 2 phases. The reason to do it in multiple phases is 1, cost, and 2, the ability to work alongside Snowbird so that we're all getting things done at once. If I asked for all 9 this year, the installer wouldn't be able to work with Snowbird. And they're in the same boat that we are of trying to get rid of the artillery. So we're all trying to work together to get sections done so that we can all be done at the same time and be free of the artillery program. It's just a community effort, Mr. Mayor, to try and make it all work together. Mm-hmm. Secondly, it would be incredibly expensive to put them all in at once. If you could take things in a little more of a bite-sized manner, it's a little easier for a guy like me to sell to a boss. Let's say that.
The boss is grinning.
My boss is grinning. That's right. Yeah. So, now I want to ask a question. When you say selection of the sites, do you mean the overall selection for the reasons of avalanche? Or do
no. I mean, it appears that you've nailed these down to a few meters for each particular tower location. I was just curious as to how you came up with those spots versus another little spot.
So that's kind of an in-depth process. It started with intimate knowledge of the terrain. Where can I put a big bomb that affects the most terrain at the same time, right? And then we go up there and we do a bunch of GIS work to say, if we put the exploder here, how much terrain does it affect and how effectively? Or is it shadowed by this rock outcropping, et cetera, et cetera. And with that in mind, we move them around a little bit again. And then we go up there and actually ground proof it on the dirt and say, can we drill here? Is there rock here to drill in? And we look at, if you look at the far right-hand side of that photo, the one in the middle of the shoulder, that has been incredibly problematic, not just for myself, but for my predecessors that were planning to do racks on Baldy at some point. How do we put an exploder there without it getting torn out by an avalanche from above? And that process has taken 7 years of my career and a lot of engineering and a lot of looking at old photos to figure out if we put it here, which is triangulated. If you look, there's a tree above and a tree just to the right. If we put it right there, the thing will survive. If we move it any further to the east, we're going to smoke our $200,000 exploder. If we move it any further to the west, it won't work. So it's been a long process and a lot of thought. And I'll be honest with you, it's been kind of a fun process. I've learned a lot through it. So.
Good. Anything else, Mayor?
No.
staff, Chris, John, anything else? Because I think we've asked Dave and Mike a lot of questions, and we appreciate the clear answers, Mike, Dave. They've been great, and I, based on staff recommendations and what we're hearing, and my knowledge of working with Alan Jones and others up there as well in the past, and and given the deadline of Uncle Sam saying no more, we don't want to be forced into this decision, but I think it's a very good, rational decision to do this, is from my standpoint. And I'd recommend that we approve the requests for the 9 and forward that to town council and look for a motion if folks agree.
Well, I'd make a motion, I'd make a motion to approve granting a conditional use permit for the 8 Weissen towers on the Alta ski lifts private property as requested in their letter dated May 23rd, 2022, and subject with the following conditions: that all requirements in the Forest Service decision memo dated January 2022 and all requirements of the ATF approval letter dated March 3rd, 2021 be incorporated as conditions of the conditional use permit granted by the town of Alta, also including the foundation plans as provided by the tower manufacturer.
Okay, did you say 8, Jeff? I didn't hear that number.
I said, yeah, the 8 Weissen towers on the Alta ski lift private property.
Okay, the Wiesen, yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
Weissen.
because the Forest Service has already done the 9th.
Right. Okay,
Correct.
so I'll make sure our numbers are right. Okay.
Right.
So,
And then,
go
you know,
ahead.
just a commentary is, hoping that this would lead to the elimination of a need for a future tram on Mount Baldy. But
Okay, so we have a motion on the table with the conditions of the following the practices and conditions laid out by ATF and USFS. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, John.
Thank you, Dave. So we have a motion on the table with a second. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, very good. Well, there you go. I have I think it'd be great, Dave and Mike, if we could, I think the planning commission is curious once these are going, maybe we do our winter walk, Dave, just for your background. Once a year, we try to do a walkabout in terms of things that are out there in the town. Usually it's in the nicer weather. Anna used to take us around and do a ski about instead of a walkabout once a year. Perhaps maybe next winter when these are up and running, we can actually, I assume you're going to fire these off quite early in the morning. If there's any way we could be kept apprised of not just the construction, but the operations too. Maybe either a video or we could try to see them, or you could take us on a little tour sometime. We're always curious about what's going on and new technologies and how things are going.
Absolutely. That's no problem at all. We'd love to show off the future of avalanche work.
Yeah, we'll set the alarms for 4 a.m.
I start at 3:30. See you there.
3.
Well, okay. Okay.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Jeff, can I just ask, it seemed like you were reading from some text for that motion. Can you pass that along to me?
Yes, I could.
Okay.
So
All right.
it'll have my questions on there as well. So
Yeah, I can sort through it.
so I'll shoot it to you in an email.
Thank you very much.
So
Okay, I just
Again,
wanted to say a couple of things.
Yes, go
Excellent
ahead.
job, Planning Commission. Thank you for doing my job. And excellent job, Dave and Mike, because you gave all the information that allowed them to do that. So Chris and I, we didn't have to do anything. However, we're not done. This conditional use does meet all the requirements set up in our ordinance, except for the slope on 30%, but you don't have to do that. That will go to Elise and Roger and the rest of the council, and we're gonna put that on for the 15th. So they'll need a variance to the slope restrictions on construction on slope over 30%, which by the very nature of the ski area, I mean, this is where you got to do that stuff. And I also like to say that this is exactly the same thing that's happening with the Mountainous Planning District, the Mountainous Planning Commission over in Big Cottonwood Canyon. So we're all in the same boat. You know, it's hard to keep up with this new technology, but you did it, and thank you very much.
And John, is there any value in the council receiving a positive recommendation to grant that variance from the planning commission, or just moot?
What happens next?
Ooh, well, they're going to
It's,
get one from staff, but yeah, we could definitely put that in as part of this if you wish.
Yeah, I would make that motion that, at least from my perspective, that the planning commission recommend to the council that they have a positive consideration of the variance request for working on the steeper slopes.
Perfect. Thank you. Done.
I don't think that needs to be a motion. I think that's just, yeah, I guess I just kind of made that assumption, but I'm glad you're pointing that out, Jeff.
Yeah, it'd be hard to argue that you can only put these devices on flat land.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it'd make for a pretty good 4th of July, Mr. Mayor.
yeah. It'd be kind of boring after a while, though. So, okay, all right. Well, hopefully you don't have any supply chain issues this summer if it's pending approval by the council, and you can get your construction season up and running soon. I know you have a tight schedule, and again, the labor and everything's all lined up, ready to build these things. I think, again, to reiterate, we're always curious and about how things progress and changes on the mountain, and would love to do a follow-up once things are up and running.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When are you, Dave, expecting to start installation?
Well, we were scheduled to start June 20th, but the snow doesn't seem to want to melt. It seems to want to fall these days. So at this point, we're looking to hopefully start July 5th. That said, we have all the materials in the parking lot with the exception of the actual towers, and we'll be ready to go the second we see dirt shining through on Baldy. So
Good deal, good deal.
Great.
Okay, all right, well, thanks again. And to echo what John said, it was the background information made it really easy for us. It was very clear, great documentation and support, and then your discussion today helps us make these decisions very cleanly, so we appreciate that.
thank you guys very, very much for your time and your consideration. We appreciate it.
You bet, you bet. Let's keep in touch on that. Planning Commission, let's see, we do have a meeting scheduled later in June. I don't know if we're going to delay that one or cancel that one out. We don't believe we have any action at this point, actionable items. It was, I think, June 24th or something.
28th.
28th.
I think it was a joint serious meeting of potlucking with the council.
Yeah.
How's that? Okay, so that might actually happen.
I'm looking at the man who lives where we were going to do it. And who knows what's going to happen in the next 3 weeks, but
Yeah, I think it was basically more of a social event than a
Right.
formal event. Just so everybody can get to know each other better. And I'd like to keep that on the calendar and see how, if, it's easier to cancel it than it is to resurrect it.
Yeah, I know this is one of my ideas to try to get us all together, and I think as of last night, I might be in Big Sky that day for work. But it's work. It's work. But you should press on, and let's just I'll keep in touch with John and Chris next couple of weeks.
Hey, John, just since I have you all here, is there any questions you have, anything else about we have going on this summer in the ski area, or plans about the future that I can answer questions? Do you have a few minutes?
Not yet. I think we're all also kind of waiting. I'm sure you're waiting on not necessarily pins and needles, to see what UDOT's decision is in Little Cottonwood overall. I don't know if there's been a recent ETA or rumblings about that. Otherwise, I think, Mike, just also, again, I've been thinking a lot about the time you took with us last time. Again, to reiterate, that was fascinating, and we really appreciate your talk, your lessons learned from this last season with the paid and reserved parking and other things, and how that intersects with climate change and snow patterns and off-piste, on-piste, and safety. Again, I've been ruminating on that ever since our last meeting. So again, thanks on that. As far as other things you have going on this summer, I'll turn it over to the rest of the planning commission if they have anything. I don't have anything pressing like what the heck is going on here or any major curiosity issues right now, but I want to turn it over to everybody else.
Well, I'm curious as to how the progress on the Sunnyside replacement. It looks like you got the cable down and the shivs down off the towers.
You know, it's kind of hard to remove towers when you can't get to the bolts to unbolt them and keep snowing.
There you go.
So that's kind of the issue we have there a little bit, but it's moving forward. We've got the bottom terminal out and we're getting the top terminal out hopefully within the next week. And then hopefully by mid-June, we're going to be able to fly out those towers. We should start the excavation of the bottom terminal before then. Supply chain wise, there is some concerns that all the parts and pieces could arrive here in time. And so we have delayed removing the Albion chairlift. We're going to keep it in place until we have all the parts and pieces. Just in case we might have this nostalgic starting of the ski season when we run Albion for a little bit. We'll see.
So you haven't given away sold the chairs off yet, I take it.
You would be surprised how much interest there is in chairs. I mean, we have a certain number of chairs. I think we have 4 times the amount of people that's looking for a chair. So it's,
only 4 times. I'm surprised it's not greater, but okay.
Oh my word, it's significant. So
Including-
we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Including the town of Alta who wants to use a couple of the chairs for a swing in the park.
I know everybody has a reason, and a purpose,
Right.
So it's there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Sunnyside lift, as we mentioned, has been purchased by Red Lodge, Montana, and they'll start trucking a lot of those parts and pieces out of here in the next few weeks as it comes off the mountain that's going. And as the snow melts, we'll be able to move up and start to tack some of the work we have approved to do on Supreme this summer. And we're going to be working with a little master plan update for the ski area that we'll be talking with our board about later this month. Just kind of some of those concepts that we talked about in our last meeting of how do we prepare for and climate change and managing demand into the future. And so those are topics that we'll be focused on. And I would like to try to spend a few minutes with you, Jeff, to talk a little bit about water storage options. We have some ideas and like to pick your brain on some of that.
So I'll be here until the end of the month, and then I'm going to be traveling for a good part of the summer.
Okay, I'll try to. What's the best way to get a hold? Just to call you, or
either call me, text me, or shoot me an email.
Okay, I'll do that.
So,
Mike, is that a base area plan or a whole mountain plan, or when you say master plan, does it encompass the entire ski lifts area?
Yes.
Okay.
So, we have a master plan that we have with the Forest Service. But so the intent is really to sit down and refine it to see if there are adjustments that need to be made, given what we've learned in the last few years and what we talked about a little bit, and preparing for the future. And part of that, that could be altered significantly by whatever UDOT does on their transportation scenario when we finally have that decision. And we look forward to sitting down with the town and talking about, well, what does this mean for us as a community into the future, and what parts and pieces do we need to try to plan or tweak or fine tune or have influence with whatever they decide to do going down the road.
Sure.
In that regard, that's there.
Well, Mike, from a planning commission standpoint, I'd probably state the obvious. We'd love to be engaged as much as as possible. I know you, if you have a consultant or whatever on board, and any touch points with us, we'd be happy to be active participants.
So-
along
so-
the way.
Yeah, so our process is internally, we've had some discussions. We have a eco sign, the consultant that we've used in the past is coming in next week to spend some time with our team. Ultimately, I will come out of that meeting with some conceptual ideas that I'll take to my board later in the month. And depending on where we come out with them, we'll take, if we get conceptual approval for some of that, then we'll try to go to the next step of getting a little bit more definition and structure to, and design maybe to what they may be. And at that point in time, we certainly would want to involve, share what were our thoughts with you as a planning commission and get feedback and concerns and ideas from you.
Okay, is Paul coming down by chance?
Paul Matthews?
Yeah,
No, he's not. It will be Emily and Dave Filius who will be down.
yeah, we worked with them on with some UDOT work together.
Correct. Yeah.
They're great. Yeah, we have a great relationship. Good, okay.
Hey, all, I need to excuse myself.
Yeah,
If that's
Well-
okay. I want to thank you very, very much for your time, and I appreciate all your efforts. Thank
all
you.
right, thanks
Just
again, Dave.
real quick, Dave, before you leave, just from a water supply standpoint, I know the slow melt is a pain for you, but it really helps the water supply. So,
Yes, it does.
We should blow a whole bunch more snow into big, hard glaciers on the groomed runs and let them melt slowly over the course of the year, but
yep, that's the,
oh well, not my
So-
department.
right.
I'll see you guys later.
Okay,
All right.
thanks again. With
Thank
that,
you.
shall we adjourn?
I'll make the motion that we adjourn the special meeting of June 2nd.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second that.
Very good. Thank you, Maren. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. And,
Right.
and let's keep in touch on that meeting later in the month, Roger and John and Chris. So,
Right.
Thank you
All right.
very much.
all right,
All right.
over and out,
everybody.
everybody.
Right, take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.